I've joined Anthropic. This shook me when I first read it, and I couldn't quite figure out why. And I thought about it, and now I want to explain exactly why I think this is such a big deal. Andre Karpathy, if you're not familiar, is one of the most influential people in artificial intelligence. He invented self-driving at Tesla. He was an OpenAI co-founder, which makes this entire story even more wild because now he's joining Anthropic. Also, one of the best educators in artificial intelligence, able to break down extremely complex topics in ways that almost anybody can learn it. A lot of people thought this was quite shocking because look, it has 24 million views on basically what amounts to a job update. This is actually a sign of the times. The AI labs have become almost religions, and based on his decision to join Anthropic, we have learned a lot about his view of the future, and it's not positive. I think the next few years at the frontier of LLMs will be especially formative. I am very excited to join the team here and get back to R&D, research and development. I remain deeply passionate about education and plan to resume my work on it in time. On multiple measures, Anthropic is winning the AI race. They now have the most revenue. They seemingly have the strongest culture, whether you agree with the culture or not, and we're going to get into that. They also seem to be attracting, as exampled by Karpathy, the best people in the world to join them. And maybe that's another reflection of their culture. But what is their culture? And how does it compare to OpenAI? It just seems like we're in a complete era of dogma. When you join a company, you are planting a flag and saying, this is what I believe. And so by Karpathy joining Anthropic, he's basically validating a lot of what Anthropic has been saying. And if you don't remember what Anthropic has been saying, it's quite pessimistic about the future. For example, the founder of Anthropic, Dario Amodei, spent last year warning of an AI white-collar bloodbath. He also leads the company that believes artificial intelligence could be conscious and that they believe it has the highest likelihood of becoming sentient, and not in the good way, in the Terminator way. And also that these models are dangerous and that open source was a bad idea, and also that they were the only company that was responsible enough or thoughtful enough to actually have the models. And it just seems like Karpathy has joined the empire. By the way, completely wild that he decided to drop this news during Google I/O's keynote. The point of this video is it just seems like pessimism is taking over. And so although Andre Karpathy didn't directly say it, by joining Anthropic, he is effectively saying Anthropic is the only company that he believes has a direct line of sight and the right set of ingredients to succeed with artificial intelligence. And I also had a sense of loss, as I said, that we lost this independent voice, this researcher who was also able to educate so many people about artificial intelligence, but also maybe he just believed this stuff. Maybe he believed that there really wasn't a bright future. It made me sad to realize that. I think about when Peter Steinberger joined OpenAI, Peter Steinberger, the creator of OpenClaw. I had a similar feeling at first. I felt a loss. There was this absolute genius who was creating something new and innovative and independent and open source. And when he joined OpenAI, I felt we lost a part of that. And I'm feeling that again here. And it just seems like there are 2.5 companies that are just taking all of the oxygen out of the room. All of the points of view, all of the perspectives are just getting sucked into basically 2.5 companies. And which ones are those? Of course, OpenAI, we have Anthropic, and the half is xAI. They have strong perspectives. They just don't quite have that frontier model yet. One of the most interesting parts of this story is the fact that Andre Karpathy is an OpenAI co-founder. He left a while ago, but he was one of the original people on the OpenAI team. He also was on Elon's team at Tesla. But the interesting part now is he's joining Anthropic, and that is, at least from my perspective, a big slap in the face to Sam Altman and the OpenAI culture. He didn't believe in them enough to go with them, even though he started there. And that is so wild to me. There's just something going on at Anthropic that pulls the best people in and keeps them there. Not a single Anthropic founder has left in all the years that they've been operating. There is something to be said about that. And so let's talk about the different perspectives of these companies. I think we all know Anthropic. I've already talked about it. Very pessimistic. They believe they're the only ones, holier than thou, that can create the right kind of AI in the future. Then we have OpenAI. And they believe AI is more of a tool and that it is going to create abundance and that there is going to be this a bit painful transition period, but mostly they have an optimistic view of the future. And then we have XAI and Elon Musk, and they are pretty explicitly optimistic about the future, redoing their company's mission and Tesla's mission, even though XAI and Tesla are separate companies, they're basically the same because it's all Elon, that there's going to be amazing abundance in the future. And we're going to have not just universal basic income, but universal high income. These are all words that Elon said directly. And so imagine you're one of the best researchers on the planet. You could go work anywhere. You can command compensation of any amount. And really, to Karpathy, it doesn't even matter. The money doesn't matter. He's already a billionaire, most likely, right? Because he's a co-founder of OpenAI. His decision to join Anthropic is extremely telling. It's either he believes that they are the only company that is able to create artificial intelligence in a safe way, or maybe just at all. He also believes in their worldview. Job loss is going to be very real and very impactful. And then maybe he just saw something internally. He's technical through and through. He's a researcher at heart. And so he might have just seen something inside of Anthropic that got him so excited that he wanted to go and lend his expertise to the company to help them drive towards that future. Now, typically people in tech are motivated by two things, obviously money, but the mission. And I know it sounds corny to a lot of people, but the mission of these companies is generally quite important. When you can go work anywhere, work on anything, the actual problem you're solving and the reason why you are solving that problem is incredibly important. And so again, this is quite telling why Karpathy joined Anthropic. And look, this is something I think about quite a bit. It seems like pessimism, negativity towards AI has completely taken over the narrative. I mean, look at this Pew Research study. Americans continue to be wary of AI's impact on daily life. 50% of Americans are more concerned than excited about the increased use of AI in daily life. But it's clear a ton of people are concerned, and it has actually been increasing, especially in 2023, which is when ChatGPT was released. And it has also become politicized. Politics, especially in the US, are completely polarized. There is no middle ground. There is no gray area. You're either for something or you're against it, and you are vehemently so. Of course, because AI is the biggest thing right now, it has become politicized. Whether you're talking about Bernie Sanders having a conversation with Claude, which is just a phone on the other side of the table, which is like the most absurd image ever. Let's not forget this, when Bernie Sanders decided to interview Claude, and it was on this stand with, I don't know, it's just such like a crazy image, right? Are we seeing this? I mean, the fact that he's interviewing Claude and he thought this was a legitimate interview is the craziest thing ever. You know, whatever you think about Bernie Sanders, fine, but it has become completely politicized. Bernie Sanders is talking about pausing AI completely. AOC is talking about pausing AI completely. And just so you don't think I'm completely favoring one side, the Trump administration with the Department of War went to war with Anthropic. And so, of course, because it has become so politicized, it is binary in that it's either extremely good or extremely bad. Just admitting something from my channel, I have historically been extremely optimistic about artificial intelligence, maybe to the point where some people saw me as naive. And we actually had meetings as a team to think through that. And I actually think that was quite valid feedback. If you're optimistic about everything, your opinion doesn't carry as much weight. And so I try to be critical when it is warranted. But the general sentiment around AI right now is just seemingly pure pessimism outside of a small bubble of AI insiders. Even within that bubble, Anthropic stands alone as a paragon of pessimism. Is paragon the right word? By the way, this isn't new. The entire social media apparatus is based on optimizing for fear and anger. Facebook and Meta kind of knew that for a while, and they didn't do anything about it. And this was especially harmful to kids. They actually had to pay a lot of money because of that. Just a few months ago, New Mexico jury says Meta harms children's mental health and safety. So this is nothing new. The social media algorithms are optimizing for one thing, and that is engagement, time on site, because that means they get to serve more ads. And of course, human nature is attracted to fear and anger. Those are the easy emotions to gravitate towards. And we're seeing the same thing now with AI. Politicians want to win races, so they point to the big bad boogeyman that is AI. AI data centers are going to drink up all the water. They're going to take all your jobs. It doesn't really matter what it is. It's just AI bad. It's certainly not all sunshine and rainbows. It's somewhere in the middle. Think about 24-hour news built around keeping you engaged and keeping you watching for as long as possible. So of course, them as well, optimizing for fear and anger. If all they did was tell you that everything is good and you should feel optimistic, you'd probably turn the TV off and go outside and touch grass. But instead, they have to draw you in with that fear and anger. And that's what I am deeply concerned about, because AI has the potential to have truly a positive impact on the world. And if we see it as really a deeply negative thing or a deeply polarizing thing, then we're going to have a large portion of the population fearful of it, which is bad in itself. But they're going to be more willing to enact policy to stop AI or to slow down AI. And that actually puts us at risk, because I guarantee other countries are not going to be slowing down when it comes to AI. And AI is one of the most powerful technologies and innovations ever created. So we do want it to be ours. And by the way, I'm not saying that the AI industry is not to blame for some of this pessimism. AI companies are doing themselves no favors when it comes to the perception of artificial intelligence. And a great example is the ex-Google CEO Eric Schmidt getting absolutely booed at a commencement speech where he conveys how important AI will be to those graduating students.
And this time, it was the architects of artificial intelligence. Interesting. Every person and every relationship you have, I know what many of you are feeling about that. I can hear you. There is a fear. We do not know, and if you'd let me make this point, please. If you don't care about science, that's okay, because AI is going to touch everything else as well. Whatever path you choose, AI will become part of how work is done. If you have a problem in the world you want to solve, you can now assemble a team of AI agents to help you with the parts that you could never accomplish on your own. Let me give you some advice. First, find a way to say yes. And thank you very much, and good night.
And Lulu Chang Miseveri actually had a great take. And if you're not familiar with who she is, she's basically a PR comms master. The question is not whether AI will shape the world. It will. The question is whether you will help. Tone deaf disaster. Obvious move would have been to focus on the graduates as the protagonists instead of framing them as accessories to AI's world takeover. And this is truly the issue. Everything the AI industry talks about is this race to this nebulous idea of AGI, which nobody outside of a very small group of people actually knows what that means. And even that very small group of people disagree on what it means. And so what Eric Schmidt is effectively saying is get on board and help build this thing that most of you believe is going to replace you. It is not a compelling story to be telling kids that are literally sitting there about to graduate. And now a little bit on the personal front. When I think about making videos, the videos that are almost guaranteed to do well, the ones that are generally negative on some topic. When Anthropic does something kind of crappy with their pricing, or they don't treat their developers well, or they're not transparent, calling them out, those videos tend to do really well. But there's also a lot of positive things in the AI industry happening that also deserve to be highlighted. And I feel like I have this tension in the business where if I want to get more views, I should probably dunk on Google or I should dunk on Anthropic. And there are plenty of YouTubers who do that. But I am actually quite optimistic about the future. And I need to balance being optimistic while also being critical where it is warranted. And I know a lot of you in the comments have actually said things about it, especially in the early days of my videos. You would always say, oh, of course, Matt is hyping this up, or Matt is excited about this. He never has anything negative to say. And I took that to heart. Again, that was very valid feedback because I was so excited and I didn't want to dunk on builders. I am a builder at heart. I did come from building startups and building companies and putting my absolute heart and soul into something and putting it out there, and just to have people dunk on it was such a crappy feeling. And so I didn't want to do that. But then again, I came to realize there is plenty of room to be critical of companies and decisions they make, while also painting an overall optimistic picture of the future. That is what I believe is also best to convey to everybody else. Coming back to Andrej Karpathy, trying to figure out why I was so affected by him joining Anthropic. And I realized that's the reason, is because he is co-signing effectively everything Anthropic has been saying, that there's going to be complete job loss, that they are the only company good enough to create artificial intelligence in a safe way, that open source doesn't deserve to exist. These are not things I believe in the slightest. And so I saw Andrej Karpathy as this shining light of education and optimism, but maybe it just wasn't that. Or just to paint a nice little optimistic angle on it, maybe him joining will inject a bit of optimism into Anthropic. Let's put a bow on this. I want to be optimistic. I enjoy being optimistic. I think there's plenty of room to be critical and to criticize companies when they make bad decisions. And I'm going to try to strike a balance. Not always going to get it right. Always open to your feedback. Of course, drop it in the comments below. I do read that. And I just hope Anthropic becomes net more positive, net more optimistic with Andrej Karpathy on the team now. And by the way, there are plenty of examples of Anthropic being extremely pessimistic, including an essay that they just put out saying we have 2 years before China takes over. I reviewed that fully here.